A 20-ounce bottle of Coke, a 12-ounce can of Coke. Customers drink both completely, to the last drop. One has 40% more liquid. Customers don't realize what they just did. That's not the product. That's not the flavor. That's the packaging. And the company that understood this didn't just sell more soda. They designed how much soda people believe they're supposed to have. That's unit bias. And the brands that understand it build it into their packaging, their pricing, their content, and their product design, quietly controlling consumption without customers even noticing. Today, we're breaking down what unit bias is, where you've already seen it executed perfectly by some of the biggest brands in the world, what the research says about it, and exactly how you can use it in your marketing. Let's go. Unit bias is a cognitive heuristic, a mental shortcut that says, whatever one unit looks like, that's the right amount to consume. One plate, one bag, one episode, one glass, one scoop, one serving. Customers don't do the math. They don't ask whether this is the amount they need. They look at what's in front of them, see a complete whole unit, and read it as the socially and culturally correct amount. Then they stop. Here's what makes this so powerful for marketers. One unit isn't fixed by nature. It's defined by whatever container, format, or frame you put around the product. You define the unit. You set the norm. The customers follow it almost every time. So when you're thinking about packaging, pricing, or content formats, you're just not making aesthetic or operational decisions. You're answering a psychological question your customers will never consciously ask. How much of this am I supposed to have? You're setting the answer before they ever wonder. And here's where this gets really interesting from a business strategy standpoint, not just a marketing one, because you're not just setting consumption norms, you're setting the economics of your company. If your variable costs drop as production volume goes up, which is true for most physical products and a lot of digital ones, then a larger unit means more product delivered per transaction, a lower cost per unit, and a higher contribution margin on every sale. You can architect the unit around the optimal economics of your business, not just around what feels intuitive. The unit you define in your marketing is the same unit that shows up on your P&L. That's not a small thing. Most brands never think of it this way. Frito-Lay built a business on this. You know the tagline, bet you can't eat just one. Most people think that's about the chips being addictive, but the deeper play is the packaging unit. Walk into any convenience store, vending machine, or airport kiosk. What do you see? Individual single-serve bags. One bag equals one snack. That's the unit Frito-Lay established, and customers honor it almost universally. Here's the real genius of it. Frito-Lay also sells fun-size bags, standard bags, party-size bags, and multi-packs. And what their research consistently found was that customers tend to consume one bag, whatever size that bag is. The person who buys the individual bag and the person who buys the larger bag both feel like they've had their snack when the bag is empty, because the bag is the unit, not the amount inside. Now, here's the marketing punchline, because this is where the revenue lives. A smaller, well-defined unit that feels complete gets purchased again. The customer who finishes a single-serve bag at 2 p.m. is back for another one tomorrow. Frito-Lay doesn't just get paid once per consumption event. They get paid every time the customer decides one unit wasn't enough for the week, and every one of those purchases feels perfectly normal, because each bag is its own clean, complete unit. This is why individual snack-size packaging dominates the food and beverage industry, not just for convenience, for psychology. The bag tells customers when they're done, and then they'll be back. Let's move off food for a second, because this principle shows up in about every category. Netflix built an entire binge-watching culture around redefining what the unit is. When television was broadcast, the unit was an evening. You sat down, watched what was on, and went to bed. The schedule bounded consumption. Netflix changed the unit. On Netflix, one episode is the unit, but they engineered the product to make that one unit perpetually feel like it's not quite finished. Cliffhanger endings, autoplay counting down 5 seconds to the next episode before a customer can think, full seasons dropping at once. The autoplay feature is pure unit bias engineering. By defaulting to the next episode, Netflix is telling customers, the previous episode was just the beginning of your unit. The real unit is the whole season. Research confirms this. Studies have shown that disabling autoplay significantly reduces binge-watching behavior. The format drives the consumption. Netflix didn't just create content, they redesigned what one session means. They made the unit larger, and customers followed. So here's the question for your business. What does that one complete experience currently mean in your category? And are you defining it, or are you leaving that definition to chance? Now let's look at the research. In 2006, researchers at the University of Pennsylvania published a paper in Psychological Science called Unit Bias, a new heuristic that helps explain the effect of portion size on food intake. They found that people ate half as much food just because a pretzel was cut in half. Here's how they did it. They set out a ball of pretzels in an office building lobby. Some days, whole pretzels, about 3 ounces each. Other days, the same pretzels cut in half, so 1.5 ounces each. People could take as many as they wanted, no cost, no limit, no one watching. When whole pretzels were out, people took one. When half pretzels were out, people also took one unit. Even though the half pretzels was literally half the food, total consumption dropped dramatically, not because anyone was trying to eat less, not because they were less hungry, but because the unit was smaller. They ran the same experiment with Tootsie Rolls in different sizes and with M&Ms served with different spoon sizes. Same pattern every time. People consume approximately 1 unit, and the size of the unit is defined by how the product is presented, not by any internal hunger signal. The conclusion? People treat 1 unit as the culturally appropriate amount to consume. They don't reason about it. They stop at the unit boundary. The marketing translation is direct. The unit is the dial. Turn it up, consumption goes up. Turn it down, consumption goes down. And customers experience both as completely normal. Here's how to put this to work in your marketing. First, redesign your delivery unit to match the consumption behavior you want. Start by asking, what does 1 unit currently mean for your product or service? 1 can, 1 login session, 1 module, 1 email, 1 meeting? Then ask the harder question, is that unit producing the engagement and revenue behavior you want? If customers are under-consuming, not seeing enough value, churning before they get a result, not returning, consider whether you can expand the unit. Bundle more into one. Turn a single product into a starter kit. Make a single session experience into a defined multi-session journey with a clear endpoint. Give customers a bigger unit to complete, and they'll stay longer to finish it. If customers are over-consuming in ways that create support burden or erode margins, a smaller, more defined unit often solves it. And here's the counterintuitive part. Smaller units with a clear done signal get repeated. One well-defined thing leads to another. That's the Frito-Lay mechanic. Completion breeds return. Your unit size is a revenue strategy. Treat it like one. Your second play in the unit bias marketing playbook, use pricing units to reframe how big the commitment feels. The way you structure and name your pricing is your unit, and it directly shapes how large or small the purchase decision feels to the buyer. $1,200 a year and $100 a month are identical numbers, but the monthly unit feels smaller, more manageable, easier to say yes to. $3 a day barely registers. Each framing is a different unit, and each one changes the perceived size of the ask. This matters most for recurring revenue businesses. Your annual versus monthly pricing toggle isn't just a billing preference. Monthly feels like a smaller unit, lower barrier, easier entry. Annual feels larger, scarier. But drives better retention and lifetime value once customers commit. Know which unit drives which behavior. Then design your pricing page around the outcome you want, not the output that feels most natural. Same principle applies to your pricing tiers. Each tier is a unit, Pro, Enterprise. You define what's complete inside each one. The key is making sure every tier feels whole, not artificially capped. Customers should feel like they're choosing the right-sized unit, not being pushed towards a bigger one. And play number 3 in the marketing unit bias playbook, format your content so the unit drives completion and return. If you're running content marketing, this podcast, a newsletter, a video series, social content, the format is the unit, and the unit determines how much people consume and how often they come back. Here's the test. Go look at your highest bounce rate or highest drop-off content right now. Where are customers leaving? Before you change the content, ask whether the unit is wrong. Too long, no clear done signal, too many sections pulling in too many directions. A newsletter with 12 different sections is a large, heavy unit. A lot of readers start it and don't finish. A newsletter with one sharp, focused idea, small, complete unit, readers finish it. Completion creates satisfaction. Satisfaction creates loyalty. The same dynamic that makes Netflix autoplay work, that irresistible pull towards the next unit, you can engineer it into your content cadence. Make each piece feel complete. Make each completion feel like the natural beginning of the next one. That's the loop. Define your content unit, then protect it. Unit bias is a reminder that enough isn't something that customers calculate from the inside. They read it from the outside, from your packaging, your pricing structure, your content format. You are constantly teaching customers what one looks like, whether you're thinking about that or not. The brands that think about it, Frito-Lay, Netflix, the beverage companies who figured out the can and the bottle are both one drink, they're not doing anything manipulative. They're just being intentional about the decision every brand makes by default anyway. So make it on purpose. Your marketing move this week? Pick one unit in your business. One, your pricing unit, your packaging unit, your content unit. Ask whether it's producing the behavior you want. And if not, change the size of the unit before you change anything else. Your marketing move.